Welcome to the Go Green podcast. Today I'm excited to bring you one of my favorite guests. This gentleman has done over 400 personal installations, started up a sales team called Helios Energy Global out of Santa Monica. He has a production studio where he produces amazing music, and also just found out he might be getting a pit bull today. So Taylor Crouse, welcome to the show.
Good morning. Good morning. It's actually pronounced Kraus, but thank you. Yeah, happy to be here. Thanks for having me, Jonathan. Really excited to share and bring some value to those listening.
Awesome. Kraus, dang it. I should have got that one. Yeah.
No worries.
Let's do it, man. Yeah. So let's just jump straight into it. You know, you've been doing this for a while. You started your company in 2018. And, a lot of the listeners out there right now are going through some challenges in the solar space. And I'm just curious from your standpoint, if you look back over the past, 8 years of your journey, what were some of the moments that shaped you as an entrepreneur?
Ooh, okay. What were some of the moments? So I think one of the first moments, and really what got me hooked on entrepreneurship right from the start, was actually just the lifestyle that I could build. Right. I went to school, actually studied engineering, kind of planned on getting that job, like a high-paying job, a safe job. But in college, I was actually introduced to entrepreneurship. And I just love that premise of having complete freedom of my life, right? Like going where I wanted to, when I wanted to, doing whatever I wanted to, and just really having that freedom and flexibility. So with entrepreneurship specifically, like that's kind of what really drew me to it. And yeah, I've definitely created that, and it's been absolutely, a journey in a lot of ways, but definitely a worthwhile one. And can you ask me the question one more time?
Yeah, no, because I was gonna say
As-
I've seen all the highlights now, and you're living an awesome lifestyle. You get to do what you want when you want, right? But
yeah,
there's been challenges, right? Like, what were some of those early days challenges? Whether it's
sure.
like figuring out the sales pitch, knocking the doors, right? What were some of those early challenges that you had?
So in entrepreneurship in total, or just like specifically to solar?
Specifically to solar, let's start there, and
Okay,
then maybe we'll
cool.
touch on some
Sounds good.
others.
Yeah, specifically to solar, I came in pretty confident, right? Already doing sales out of college in the financial industry. So coming into solar and doing door to door, I figured I'd actually do pretty well. I had a coach at the time I had hired, who actually I had paid my life savings to teach me door to door. He went door to door for 10 years. I paid this guy 25 grand over the course of 3 months. Most of that was money my dad had given me as like a good luck in life package. And yeah, I came in like super hot headed and I totally fell flat in my face. I actually remember I didn't get a single sale for the first 2 months. And I genuinely think the hardest part, maybe of my entrepreneurial journey, but especially in solar, was just going out there those first 2 months, day after day, knocking on doors, to just essentially, like I would go out there for 4 hours to not even create a meeting. So I always talk about like, oh, like you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. I couldn't even take a shot. Like I was just knocking doors and not even have a meeting to like sell anything. And I remember just getting in my car and like feeling like it was so hard, this like internal struggle of this is a waste of time. I'm going out there. I'm not getting paid for this. I'm not making any money, and having multiple times like that I cried. I remember specifically I went out one night when my first door knocking, and it was like in the winter, so it gets dark at 5, right? But people are home after 5, so I was knocking this like street, maybe like Lakewood, California. It's dark out. I knocked this house with like a red door, and I'm not sure. Like they said, "Oh, we're good," and I walked around the corner of the street and just like sat on the curb, and I'm just like, "Oh man, this sucks." Like, and I'm just sitting there for like 60 seconds on the curb, and then somebody came around the street and like, "Hey, what are you doing out here? Quit knocking on doors. You're bothering people. It's dark out. It's after hours. Like, get out of here. Just get out of here." And I was like, "Oh my gosh." And I'm like 20, 25, 26, and that really rattled me. Yeah, I definitely had a few of those over the years. Had the cops called on me twice. Um, a accelerated version of that. I door knocked in Chicago. It's supposed to be some rebates going down out there, and very flat land where I was door knocking middle of the day. Long driveway. I walk up this guy's driveway. He's sitting on his porch in a rocking chair. I start talking to him, and it's going wherever it's going. And all of a sudden, the cops roll up like right outside his house, and like two squad cars speed up, pull out, hop up. I'm just there knocking doors, my polo, my backpack, right? And I'm like, oh, officer's like, hey, I'm just here door knocking. Like, I don't know who this guy is. And like, oh, no, no, we're not here for him. We're here for you. I was like, for me? I'm just out here knocking doors. They're like, yeah, we got some calls with like a suspicious person in the neighborhood. I'm like, it's the middle of the day. I'm wearing a bright blue polo. But that happened a few times in my career. Um, yeah, that's probably like some of the early door knocking challenges for sure. Just like the mental grit to keep going, and just the rejection. I definitely had a lot of moments where dealing with that was really mentally rough, internally rough, and sometimes I'd try to come home and just like forget today because I'd have so many, rough moments. But oftentimes, what I eventually found in solar specifically, the checks are big. You're definitely making above average income. So I could fail the majority of the week or the month, and the month with a couple deals and make like 20K in a month. And I was like, wait, that's actually way better than everybody I know. But it felt like I was failing for so much of the month. But just getting a couple deals really, really allowed to live me. It's been a great life. I've been able to, take the trips, travel. I've got 2 iPhones, 2 Teslas, been to Japan, Jamaica, Canada, Thailand, Europe. So it's like the freedom that's brought, but for a lot of it, I felt like I was failing, right? But yeah, mostly just getting out there meeting
Love
people.
that. No, you got the entrepreneur spirit, brother. I mean, I was about to ask you that question, have you cried, right? But
Yeah,
anyone who's done the work of entrepreneurship has, it's like
yeah, yeah.
you can't honestly, get your face, punched in every single day and not shed a tear or two. Obviously, I can see the motivation for the freedom and the lifestyle, and to your point, 99% of the time you're failing, but because that 1% is so rewarding, it sounds like it's kept you in. Other than just like the money and the freedom, is there anything else that has kept you moving forward during those times?
Great question. Yeah, I think the most powerful question I'd always ask myself at like my lowest moments, right, was like I could quit, I could stop, but then like what does my life look like after that? And like I'm not willing to settle for that other thing because I know the moment I settle, then that's my life, that's my reality, and I definitely don't want that. I just got to invest more. I just got to put in more because I definitely don't want that. I'm not going to accept that because and that's like basically what's always allowed me to push forward. I'll tell another short story. I had a running challenge to like run a mile in under 6 minutes, which is like pretty fast. World record's like 4 minutes, but I was like, let me do it in under six, right? And I would get out there, I'd run a mile like 2 or 3 times a week, and I'd track myself and I'd time myself. And I got down. I'd go on the treadmill and I'd run the first half mile at like 8 minute pace, and then the second half mile at like 7:45. The next time I go, I run the first half mile at 7:45, second half like 7:30. Got down to like 6 minutes on the treadmill. Went to the track, different story. I was like at 6:45, was like as fast as I could run it. And I would train, I run sprints here and there, but eventually I brought my girlfriend out there. I timed myself. I trained, and I was like at 6:11. I was like, dang, I missed it. Trained a whole nother month, and same thing. Brought my girlfriend out. She timed it, and I was like 6:14. I was like, how did I train for a month and get slower? And so I once again came across that crossroads. Right, I was like, well, I set out to do this thing. I could either quit, and that's how this chapter ends. That's how this book ends, or I could just invest more. And so I started investing more, right? I was actually living in Simi Valley at the time. My girlfriend's mom's couch, we were in between places. It got super hot by like 9 a.m. So I had to get up super early. So I had to have to go run before like, it was so hot. So I call it when you invest more, you eventually get lucky. You run into a happy accident. I'm getting goosebumps telling the story. So I started running super early, right? I got to invest more because I'm not quitting. I'm not going to settle for what I didn't set out to do. So I started getting up super early, and I'd go to this like high school track. It was like, if someone's just coming up, I'd hop the fence and then run the Simi Valley High School track. And eventually, one of the days I was doing that was a cross country team was there, like when I hopped the fence. And they saw me like, "Hey, what are you doing?" I was like, "Hey, I'm just here trying to break this 6 minute mile, right?" And I was talking to the coach, and he's like, "Well, what's your training schedule? What do you do?" And I was like, "Well, I'm running a mile like 2 or 3 times a week, running sprints here and there." He's like, "Hey, but are you running long distance?" And I was like, "No, I'm just trying to run the mile." He's like, "Hey, well, you got to run long distance because like that last lap you're gassed. So go run like 5, 6 miles, and then you'll be able to reach your goal." And I was like, "Oh crap." So I did that, ran some long distance, showed up to the track one day, and I was like, "I think I got it." And long story short, I did break it. I ran at like 5:54. Um, that was a really liberating moment where like I ran basically a 6 minute mile. Every lap is a minute and a half, right? So I ran the first lap. I was like at minute 23, so I was 7 seconds under. Second lap, I was like at 2:52, so I'm still the same pace. Third lap, I was like 4:25 or something, and I was like, oh, there's no way I run this last lap slower than like a minute 30. Like I've got it, And I thought it'd take me 3 months. It took me 8 months to run it in under 6 minutes.
Yeah,
Um, yeah.
I
So
love
so
that.
with entrepreneurship, it's always like um, you could quit and settle and just like have a life you don't want, or you just could invest more and become more obsessed.
Right.
Because by being more obsessed and showing up early at this track at 6 in the morning, I got lucky, right? And
Yeah,
so with entrepreneurship in the doors, I kind of relate to that too. It's like, we mentioned 99%, 1%. I started saying most people are nice, and you really don't want to work with everybody, right? You don't want to work with 80-year-old who's maybe can't really understand what you're saying, or someone that doesn't even speak English, for example. So it's like, okay, well, the people are out there. I just got to go find the right people and just have those conversations
I love
and
it,
just
brother.
get lucky. Just invest the time until I get lucky. That's basically it.
Hard, the harder you work, the luckier you get, right? And I think
Yeah.
I love those stories, and it takes me back, right? I have a running background, believe it or not.
Oh,
And
no way. Wow.
the last time I broke a 6 minute mile, I tried to challenge myself. I was either like 25 or 26, and I wanted to get back down under six. And I
Wow.
trained for a few months to get back down under six. But in high school, when I was 17, my record was a 440 mile,
No
right?
way.
Yeah, yep. I
Wow.
ran
That's incredible, dude.
Yeah, I ran a four. I was 100 pounds lighter, right, than I am
Yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah. Damn.
Super, super skinny, and I could run a sub 16 minute 5K. So 3 miles in so about a five. I think it was like a 5:18, 5:19 pace for
For
three
3 miles.
miles. But
That's incredible, dude. Wow.
I was training, 60 to 70 miles of volume a week, right? So I was
Wow.
doing close to 10 a day. And a lot of those were just miles for volume's sake. Like the cross
Sure.
country coach told you, hey, you can
Yeah.
do sprints, you can do interval training, you can do all those. But if you're not putting in the mileage, you just won't get those PRs. And
Yeah.
it's a good metaphor, yeah, for the doors. Like you kind of have to put on miles sometimes, right? And you do the
Yeah.
grind, and then you get the records that come out of that. But it's a
For
lot of just
sure.
boring, super boring, grindy activities, like going on a 10 miles long run, just throwing on your iPod
Yeah.
or whatever. But I had another question I want to ask that was kind of in a different direction, and I wasn't thinking about going this way, but it seemed like a good question to ask. So let's talk about dating for a sec,
Okay.
okay?
Sounds good.
So I'll start with this, and then I want to get your opinion on this. I've told any woman, any girl, whatever, when I was younger, anyone that I was dating, I said, hey, I'm an entrepreneur. That comes first. There's a lot of risk, a lot of times where I'm not making money. And if we're going to be serious and move in the serious direction, like you need to be okay with that. Like I can't have you say, "Oh, I need you to get a safe job. I need you to get a career. I need you to do this," and try to change me, because the moment you do, my entrepreneur immune system is going to attack you. And I
That's
don't
funny.
want to do that. I don't want to do that, right?
Right.
And I'm luckily, now I'm married, and my wife is very supportive, and I'm so grateful for her because, she lets me do that. She doesn't mean that like I don't have challenges. I very much so have challenges, but she knows very clearly never to say, well, you think you might go get a job? Like, I would
Right.
lose it. I'd be like, I'd rather be on the
Yeah.
street, right? And it's tough whenever you're married, especially, right? Because now you have family, you got bigger, the bigger responsibilities. And I've seen this before where some people get into relationships and that's not a conversation that's had. Like, so is that something that you talk to, the person you're dating, the person you're talking to? Have you experienced challenges around dating, or is that just me?
It's definitely really fascinating and I think important point that you brought up. I guess I've like not often like necessarily directly had the conversation, but I think it's because it's like I'm almost like not worried about it because I'm like, oh, that's just not happening. Like there's like 0% chance. I guess because I've like rationalized it out because I feel like most people just want to protect you, right? They want to protect you. They want to make sure you're safe, and they're gonna just advise you the only thing that most people know how to make money, which is that, right? Naturally, it comes with no freedom. Like, even I had a thing this Friday, and it's like the classic thing that I never wanted to have happen to me, or never wanted to be in this situation. Hey, man, I couldn't get off work, so I can't make it to X. So
Right.
wow, so like somebody else is in charge of your life and your schedule. And we need people, and we really appreciate everyone that keeps our economy and society functioning. I guess for me personally, like I just never wanted to. Like I'm not
Yeah.
into control to make that decision. So with my relationships, yeah, or like people I've dated, it's like I don't know. I guess I've never like directly said
Assumptive.
that, but
It's
it's kind of
assumptive.
like, hey,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just gonna. This is what I'm doing. It's gonna be better for both of us. So you'll thank me. You'll thank me at some point, if not right away.
Right. No, I think it that if the business is going well, then it's actually it's like jet fuel, I think, for a relationship. Because you do have the time freedom, right?
Yeah,
How many other boyfriends out there can hang out on a Tuesday afternoon or go to the beach or go to this thing or that thing, right? And so because of that, I feel like there can be, like, oh, well, that's, I'm super grateful and blessed, but it's like, well, what happens whenever, you're in the entrepreneurial like downswing and things aren't going your way and deals are falling through and you're getting money taken back and your sales team is falling apart and the emotions are high and you're
yeah,
stressed about this and you have no control, right? Because, you're the one that's having to make things happen, or you're the one that's having to collaborate with all these different people to make these things happen. And sometimes people do work with you, sometimes people don't, right? And so, you can't control the variables. And so I found for me that's been one of my challenges, right? Is whenever I am in the downswings, finding out who's really there for me, who's really like, hey, you know what, like, I'm not going to come in and be like, oh, you know what, you should just give up on your dream and do something else. Right?
yeah,
And I don't think people really, when they give you advice, right, I don't think it comes from that place. Like, they're not trying to tell you that. Like, if I asked any of those people that said, maybe you should go get a job or go do this, they wouldn't tell you that, oh, they were trying to convince me to give up on my dreams, right? But that's kind of what it felt like in that
yeah,
moment.
for sure.
And it's been challenging, but it sounds like, you've been able to navigate some of those things pretty well. And I'm just curious, like, some people who start into solar, right? They go into sales, they go work for somebody, they build somebody else's brand. Like, you started off pretty quick with Helios and making your own organization. Like, why did you decide to do that instead of build somebody else's?
Great question. I started actually with a company. It was a little bigger, no name naming, but yeah, I actually did that for 8 months. And then what happened was I kept trying to work with the installers to get projects done. I'd call them, they wouldn't answer, and they'd email me back. And I was like, hey, I need to have a conversation with somebody. I just felt like I didn't have influence, or I couldn't like get stuff done that I was trying to get done, needed to get done in a timely fashion. That's why I was like, you know what, I think I could just do it better than these guys, and probably like, and then that's what I did. I did it better and for less money. But then, yeah, from there, we just do our best to really bring the most value and like, get all the options on the table so we can bring the best of everything to our clients. Yeah.
And I've noticed too, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like a lot of what you have done in your strategies have been to align with, SGIP program in California. You mentioned an incentive program in Chicago, or kind of following the money, so to speak, and just kind of finding your partners, finding the incentives, aligning your marketing message to take advantage. I know, recently, because some of the incentives have shifted away, you've been pivoting again, right? You're in this new pivot phase. To
Yeah.
find what's the new value. Like, how have you been handling that transition?
Um, I think it mostly comes down, I'll say to the word belief, and it's kind of like I just wanted to touch on what you said a little bit ago too. It kind of goes with this is like really just do I believe this is valuable for somebody? And for a 30-second segue, it's like if you had a brother or a relative that was wherever they're at in their life, graduating high school, and you believe that college is worth it for them, be it the education, be it the experience, whatever, but like you're gonna fight for them because you know it'll benefit them, right? And so with solar specifically, it's like that's always what I've fallen back to. Like I'll follow up indefinitely, forever. I followed up with a lady a year and a half later, recently, and now I have two. meetings, or I have two proposals for her, and she's like, "Let's talk for real." It's because like I just like believe this is worth it for them more than not doing it. So the new value propositions, it's like the same premise. It's like you were looking at the crazy rate increases, which, when I started, they're like, tell people rates are going to go up. I'm like, yeah, it's probably just like sales training. And like, oh my gosh, have they gone up every year and crazy amounts that, I never would have expected. And you hear it and you're like, they really go up that much, 26% and 13% the next year. It's like 40% in 2 years. That's crazy. But so I just like believe, and I'm fighting for them, just like the college example of like, I'm fighting for you to do this because just like this lady, if I don't get you started, you're gonna wake up a year and a half later, her bill's 1,500 a month. So like she basically wasted $30,000 by not doing this a year and a half ago that she could have
Mm,
just put in her solar. So it's like with the new value propositions, it's like I think we're once again in an incredible time in this industry where it's like the amount of savings people are getting, even with batteries, is incredible. So a lot of money can be made, but that's just a reflection of service and value provided.
belief. That's it, man. I love it. And I
Yeah,
think that's what it comes down to in entrepreneurship and sales is those with the strongest conviction, belief, emotion, right? They're the ones that influence, right? They're the ones that, because there's a
yeah,
lot of negative influence. There's a lot of people, coming from all the way up to the top levels of our, current administration, solar's a scam, the green new scam, right?
yeah.
It's,
If I can
or
even touch on the belief thing too, real quick. I have a philosophy where when things don't work out, it's a setup for something better that you couldn't have seen coming. I can tell you a couple of those quick, short stories. One of the most powerful ones recently was even this office that I'm in, right? It was basically like I found this building. There was a unit in here. We liked it, and I was like, "Hey, like I want the lease, right? We are gonna redo it as a studio, which we ended up getting a different one. But basically, it was like I was like begging for the lease. I was like, "I want it, give it to me." And they kind of lagged on giving it to me. I'm like, "Hey, what's going on?" They're like, "Oh, hey, we're actually looking at this other candidate." I'm like, "Why? I'm literally fully qualified. You've already approved my application, and I'm down to sign it. Like, give it to me, right?" And then they kept lagging, and then 2 days later, like, oh hey, actually we're gonna go with the other tenant. And I was like, what? I was literally here first, and like fully everything was good to go, and I was really frustrated, right? And they're like, oh hey, actually we have a different unit down the hall that we think might be better for you. Not only was it better, it was more space, 2 rooms instead of one. It was also less money. So I was like begging, fighting for this one unit, and the universe, whatever, gave me a better unit for less money. And so, to the story with solar too, we even had an employee or an ex-contractor who, is no longer with us. He actually came in. He was a stud for sure. But he had actually had 6 concussions from football in college. So like after dealing with him for some time, eventually kind of realized he kind of wasn't all the way there in some ways, which was definitely a bummer. But he unfortunately ended up, suing us when he left. And I know a lot of people know this, but eventually my lawyers were like, hey, even though you're right, you're going to go to court and win, and you're going to pay 50K in lawyer fees. Or if you go to court and lose, even say it's 10K, you're going to pay your 50K in lawyer fees, their 50K in lawyer fees, and the 10K. You should just file bankruptcy. And I was like, what? I have a corporation. I'm protected. They're like, oh, actually, no, because in lawsuits, you can sue the employer or the corporation and the corporation's owner. Since you own the corporation, they can get both of you. And I was like, wait, I thought I was totally good. So, anyways, 2 years later, we filed bankruptcy, and I had to company file and personally file, which made the lawsuit go away. But best thing that ever happened, right? We ended up deleting a ton of what we were able to like essentially bankroll the company purely on credit and then just delete it.
Wow,
So I got to keep all the cars. My lifestyle didn't change one bit. I just got to bankroll the company and essentially have a huge windfall of cash on the flip side.
nice.
Um, so yeah, so it's kind of like um, just believe and keep going.
Yeah, that's a crazy story. I never heard that one. No, I didn't. I never knew. But no, I
Yeah,
think the belief is important. And so, like, you're working to create the culture within your team, and how intentional have you been about creating that culture for your team?
I'd say pretty intentional. Um, I was in a fraternity in college, and I was the social chair. I think my second year. And for me, as an only child with no brothers and no sisters, like coming into that group and brotherhood really helped me just feel accepted, right? And like as a part of like a really big family. My dad's a military, so he moved out to California when I was like 2 years old, and both my mom and dad's family all in East Coast. So it's
Mm.
just us three in California. So I've got no family, no brothers, no sisters. So being a part of a fraternity was like, oh wow, we were known as the gentleman's fraternity, but still, it was kind of like just the brotherhood and like the friendship and the camaraderie was so really influential, I'd say, in my growth as a person and a human. And so with my company, it's like kind of the same thing. It's like, okay, well, if you could pick, like, what's the dream life? What's the ideal, right? And I always tell my guys this, I was like, I wanted to do something that mattered, make an above average income. I wanted to have time freedom, right, to go travel, and then I wanted to do it with people that I actually enjoyed working with. And that's really our culture. I have a good buddy that has a car wrapping business out in Vegas, and he's like, "Hey, man, one of my biggest regrets is I grew too quick, and I had to just hire anybody, and I just don't actually like the majority of people that I work with." And man,
Mm.
that's your day to day. Every day you're working with people you don't work with, you don't enjoy. So with our culture, it's like I have a half joke, which is even we don't accept resumes, just vibes, because like I've worked with people that should be great and should make us a lot of money, and then I have to deal with them, and they're like not that enjoyable to work with on a day-to-day basis. So it's like the company culture, as far as, hey, let's just have fun. Like, I want to make money, I want to make a difference, and I also want to enjoy working together and doing this thing. And ideally we get to hang out and do stuff, because to wrap up this question, it's like I imagine that I've really been thinking a lot about like how things used to be, like in tribes and stuff. Used to, like, I think Dune is a good example of a visual. It's like they were all together, like 50 people, that their tribe, and they traveled around and they hunted and they gathered. It's like kind of really bizarre in today's world, where like you pop in and then you're like, all right, peace, like I'm out, like I don't see you all weekend, or like I don't care about you outside of this like working relationship. It's just like weird. It's like you wouldn't really do that if you were in a tribe. You'd like see them every single day, and like you care about them and like their family, and like so
I like that.
same thing with our company. It's like, can I make it a tribe, because that's just better for everybody, ideally. And but what's cool is I can choose my tribe, right? And some people come, some people go. It's always going to happen. But yeah,
Interesting.
so that's my culture goal, is to like, I want to fuck with everybody in my company. Like, I would definitely prefer that over not. And if I can make money with that versus the other, like, which one are you picking, you know
Right.
so
I like that. No, I've seen that for sure in some of just the interactions I've had with your team, and the vibe over there at your office, been to the office, and
yeah.
yeah, and it's like you've got that creative spirit, the entrepreneurial spirit, the tribal spirit of, hey, like, it's not any kind of professional boundaries necessarily. Maybe there is some of that's there, but it's not like, it doesn't feel like yeah, it's not like an office. It's not like a traditional office like you would think of an office. Like it's a different, for sure. The vibe is different, right? Than other types of offices. So I'm curious though, because as I think about, like, some of the risks maybe of that model, has there ever been a time when maybe you really vibed with somebody and you're like, you know what, I really want to see this person succeed because I like them and I think they have the potential, but it just didn't work out? Have you had that happen?
For sure. And I think that's definitely one of the weaknesses of the culture I've described. It's taken me, I've been doing this for 8 years. Um, Decent amount of learning lessons along the way, of like, at what point do I have to make sure I'm still the boss, and like being firm with certain actions or and stuff. And I wouldn't say I love having to be that guy sometimes, but it's still necessary, because we still have to be a business and make money. But yeah, definitely people that I'd say vibed and maybe didn't really work out. But that's where I'm definitely growing. We've grown in our like expectations, and like um, we want to get to the culture I described previous, but it's also like we still have to um, create success within the company and people that come in, and for our clients. Like, that's still our first priority, and then the second, we want to ideally get there, but it's like, not at the cost of the first.
That makes
Um,
sense. Yeah.
so
No, I think of it, it's like there's a lot of metaphors for how people build teams. The one that I've always resonated with the most is a professional sports team.
right.
And the reason, it's because it's like, yeah, you have to have standards, right? Everybody on the team has standards. Kobe, rest in peace, was really like hard on his teammates, right? You could say he was really like the leader in a lot of ways for the team. But sometimes he was kind of nasty. He had that reputation for, hey, if you're not going to put in the work, then get off the court, give me the ball, right? Ball hog Kobe, right? But
Yeah.
it's like, but sometimes it's like that, mentality to get your people to see like, hey, we are friends, but this is a job. This is there is an intention. And so that's awesome to see that you're working on that. That's, sounds like
Yeah, it's
that's your
always rooted in the benefit of the company or the people, being harsh for the long-term benefit and their benefit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because you want to see them succeed, right? And it's that conversation of, hey, I'm saying this because this is, professional feedback. Like, you need
Yeah.
to put in the time, you need to put in this, you need to develop. Like, are there any books or podcasts or content that you've
Yes.
used to point people towards? Yeah, how have you, like, whenever you're at the end of your coaching limit, like, who do you send people to, or where do you send people?
Ooh, I guess two-part answer to that. The first one is I do my best to try to make sure my guys are reading some kind of book, like sales book, Law of Success, Think and Grow Rich, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Um, it's kind of tough with that. Like, where do I send them? Because it's like, the whole you can't teach a man a thing until he's ready. I've definitely experienced that in myself first and also in others. So it's kind of like sometimes it's just patience and nudging. But the content I was going to mention actually, shout out Gordon Ramsay, hilariously. I discovered some of his content in New York when I was there just a few months ago. Heard about him, didn't care about him, didn't know anything about other than he's cooking. He actually is an incredible guy and like a leader. Like he has this show. It's called Kitchen Nightmares. I definitely recommend this to anybody interested in entrepreneurship, where he goes into failing kitchens and in a week he like basically turns it around. He talks to the owners. He gets in the faces of the cooks. You cook like a twat the first 15 minutes, but he's never like, but he's never I would say disrespectful in the way of like oh yeah, screw you, like and your family. Like it's
Yeah.
always rooted in the same, like I'm just trying to help you guys win, but I'm gonna call out what's needed when it's needed because like you're not doing your job or you're not like, where's your passion? And you just get to witness him have like one-on-one conversations with people and then like yell at people, like tear them down, then build them up. Like me as an entrepreneur, it's like this is real, like um almost like what is it, like the mirror neurons, like wow, this is so cool to
Yes.
watch because like you don't really get to see that and anything else I found before.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, that's something I definitely recommend because it's like you get to watch somebody be an entrepreneur and how important like leadership it is, and then gathering everybody around and having like team conversations and then like calling people out and then again building them back up over here. So really cool. Yeah,
I love that. I think Gordon Ramsay off Nightmare Kitchen. I think I
Kitchen
have
Nightmares. Yeah, and they have like 10 seasons. I'm like, what? But like it's like I said,
promos.
really inspiring and powerful.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because I've noticed that, like, I think this is pretty much true across the board. It's not just my experience, probably, but when whoever's on your team, they will always do always do ultimately less than you as the owner, which makes sense. Like they're not as invested, right? And they will, at different levels, people will be bought in, all the way up to like at certain points, maybe matching your output, which is very rare, maybe for a short season. But usually it's like maybe half of what you do or a quarter of what you do, they'll mimic, right? We
Right.
kind of mimic our leaders. So as a leader, when I used to go to like Tony Robbins events, I would invite a ton of people. How many would come with me? Only a small handful, right?
Sure.
Only, right? Because it's like, well, I don't know if I need all that, right? I could just read a book, or I could just go knock more doors, or whatever, right? Okay, fine. I'm reading, this book. Okay, cool. I'm sharing what I'm reading. Okay, cool. Is anybody else reading any books? Like I'll maybe follow along, right? So some people, they're not, and I've just as an owner entrepreneur myself, it's like, okay, I do what I do. I show up, I share where I'm at in my journey, and maybe it resonates with somebody on the team at that time. Maybe it doesn't,
Hmm.
and I've noticed that though, but it's like if I'm doing 10 meetings a week to up my game, whether it's learning technical skills or training this or doing this event, or, my team is going to do a fraction of that, and so just trying to keep people engaged and all that. It's a lot of heart and work. And at the end of the day, you kind of just this is my realization. I'm curious if you have a similar realization. You just kind of do for me, I just do what I'm going to do. I show up. I try to bring the energy. I try to add value. I try to get creative, get curious and just keep moving and recognize that the stuff that I'm working on and building might not be received or excited, or, people are like, oh, that's kind of cool. But it's like, it's not that, but that's fine. They don't have to be at that moment. But I have this belief that everything I'm building is for a reason and for a purpose. And then maybe it's not now, maybe it's a year from now, 10 years from now, it's gonna grow in value. I believe, like, the go green mentality of like planting seeds, right? You're planting seeds, you're building relationships, you're doing all these activities sometimes as an owner and a leader, and they don't always have a direct ROI, right? And that's the challenge. One of my mentors, Tony Robbins, taught me. He said you have to work on the business that you are and the business that you are becoming. And the
Hmm.
challenge of entrepreneurship is not just working on the what's in front of your face right now, the fires that you got to put out, the people you got to pick up and dust off that are upset because they're failing or struggling or whatever the challenge of the day is. But you also have to think year from now, 5 years from now, a month from, you got to keep that in the front. And that's one of the challenges I see of really any entrepreneur is you're stuck on kind of what you're doing in the moment, but you're also like, how do you stay light and nimble and keep progressing into what you're doing? I've seen some of your journey. You've got some other brands. I've seen the coffee brand, which you can talk
Hmm.
about a little if you want. I've
Sure.
seen the production studio that you have in Santa Monica. Feel free to plug that too. You're building lots of things. You don't have kids yet, right? So
Dog be
you
the
know
first one.
some of these things, right? It's like I'm on number 3 right now.
Wow.
It's like you start to get, kids, you start to get more responsibility, right? And it's like every level there's more that you kind of stacks on you. And
Hmm.
I've noticed that, one of the things that I'll call out in you that, and just that I've seen in you, Taylor, is that you seem to manage to stay light, is what I would say. And I think there's a lot of value in that. And I don't know if that was intentional. It's just your personality, if that's something you've developed, or if there's a strategy behind it, or any of
When
that.
you say light, how do you mean
I
light?
mean, I mean, like, you're like energy wise, like you're still investing in this, doing this, like you're having, kind of fun with it, right? And you're keeping that.
Hmm.
And again, like I preface, is it you just youthful optimism? Is it just who you are? Is it the fact you maybe don't have kids yet or not?
Hmm.
It's like,
Right?
what is it, right? And I'm just trying to, because I think there's everyone's in a different part, right? You're a younger entrepreneur. I'm a younger entrepreneur as well, maybe, pretty similar, right? But as we move, you see older and older, entrepreneurs, right? And we do have people that listen to this podcast at different ages. I think sometimes you kind of get stuck in the normal, like you're not innovating, you're not disrupting yourself, right? You're not changing anything. And so you're just kind of moving along. You have a business, maybe it's growing a little bit, or there's some challenges, and you're managing your family life, you're managing this and this and this. Like, how are you managing all of these things? Is that just natural for you, or how do you do that stuff?
That's a fun question. Thanks for asking me that. Yeah, I would say well, I guess my pursuit is like the best life possible, right? The best life possible. And even in my college graduation cap, I wrote wealthiest man alive. I was like, that was my goal, right? Not the richest man, but the wealthiest man, right? And that could all be our pursuit, right? It's not just me by myself. Um, but I would say, yeah, to your note, it's been a lot of, I would say, internal like work and realization and lessons to become the person I am now. And I feel like, every 6 months to a year, I'm a new level of an internal person of like, I call it like tuning my heart, almost like tuning a guitar, right? Sometimes it's out of tune, like tuning my heart and my being from like the right come from. I was talking about that in solar too, which is like, it took me 5 years to like get to the place of, hey, I'm fighting for this for you. Sure, I'll make money. Versus the first 5 years, it was all about me. I just wanted to make money, right? Um, but yeah, so to answer the staying light and all the other pursuits, it's like I heard a cool thing recently. It was like, hey, no matter how big your house is, like you could have the house now. We're all so wealthy living in America and living in just this time period. If you've ever been to Mexico or other places, sometimes it's like, whoa, it's crazy. Or Thailand, it's crazy to see. how other people live. But this one guy was saying like, hey, like you can get the biggest house possible, but the oven is not going to cook your pizza any faster in that house. The water not going to get any hotter than it is in your apartment right now. The ice, it's not going to, it's going to be the same ice. So like all the little things. And for a guy that's also been very motivated, like I've got, getting my dream car, my Tesla, living in a luxury apartment. It's like I was always after this, like, I guess a little bit flashy lifestyle. And I even had I don't know if you know this, but I even had an all diamonds Rolex. Literally the
Nice.
whole thing was diamonds. $26,000 watch. I actually had a big crypto win. I put it on a credit card. The crypto went all the way back down, and then I was stuck with the debt. So that was a fail. But I actually got robbed for the watch at gunpoint in Santa Monica, 4 p.m. on a Sunday.
Whoa.
Yeah, these guys literally, I was listening to some music, writing a song. These guys came behind me, grabbed my shirt, and for the first like half second, I thought it was like an old friend. They'd be like, "Oh, Taylor, Taylor," and I couldn't hear him because I had headphones in. And like, "Oh, Taylor, Taylor," and like try to grab my back. And then I was my first half second thought, and then I was like, and I got pushed and like shoved, and I was like, "Oh, that's not what this is, right?" And then I had the watch insured in the premise of like, hey, if I ever did something happened, I wouldn't like hesitate, right? So I get thrown to the ground. They're like, take it off, take it off, and it's like pressed to my head, right? I'm just like, oh shit, and fucking gave him the watch over my shoulder, and then I see basically I pop back up. It's like two African American men, with masks on, hopping. They got guns, hop in a van and peel off, right? And I'm just like left there. My shirt's all ripped. Like the whole area is like frozen. Like all the people stopped and are staring at me, and I'm just like, this is crazy. And some guy ran across the street. He's like, "Hey, I got the license plate." And so I was like, "Oh man." I was like, "My guy." So and I got like forensics. I've got selfies and the police people and stuff too. But but
Dang.
I share that. Yeah, I share that story. One, because insure your stuff. So basically, but most importantly, I taught myself that I didn't actually need the jewelry. Like, I thought I got the watch, and I remember going out with some girls at a bar, and like, oh yeah, it's really pretty, and like, oh, it's cool, and like, I thought I'd be like, look how valuable I am. Like, I really thought that, like, oh, look what I can do, and I accomplished, and I spent this much money. But then, the universe took the watch away from me a year later, and gave me all my money back. So I basically rented the watch for a year, but it taught me the lesson. I didn't need the watch, right? Didn't need the diamonds, and that was a powerful lesson to learn as well. So with yeah,
That's
a lot of yeah,
that's crazy, man. I never knew that story. I mean, that is intense, dude. Robbed at
yeah,
gunpoint, 4 p.m.
yeah,
And I mean, Santa Monica is a
yeah,
nice
on a
way to.
Sunday, 4 p.m., middle of the street,
That is
gun to my
insane.
head.
Well, I'm glad you're
Um,
okay, dude. That's but yeah, that's crazy. It's like so you probably have people who come in the sales side you've seen, and they'll do that. They buy all the expensive cars and watches, and
yeah,
but it's like, is that real wealth? You know,
yeah, it's thinking a lot of it's thinking it's going to like fill I think the hole we all share to get a little bit. I'm not sure what the word is, sentimental or like
validation.
philosophical. Yeah, just like, a lot of that, like I've had a lot of wins. I've had a lot of, successful dates with girls or like adventures or really cool milestone achievements. And like those were all awesome. I do think there's but until like it's in like tuning your heart. I was actually raised in the church, and this isn't like a religious talk by any means. But like I was basically out of the church for 10 years and then kind of coming back to God a little bit, and then just the premise of like, okay, I'm not the most important thing in the universe because like we all think that, right? It makes sense. That's our perspective. Or that's my
Mhm.
body, it's my being. But like, okay, I'm second. If now the premise is like, hey, I'm building this all for God's kingdom or whoever you believe in. For me, it was always just the universe. Now it's God, right? Like if I'm building God's kingdom, oh wow, well great. Well now we're just all on the same team because it's all for somebody else. I'm not the most important thing. And now it's like I'm just grateful every day for today and like who's in my life and the ups and the downs and the struggles, and it's all an adventure, but it's like it's not all about me. I'm second actually. And like from that place, all of a sudden like it's a way more peaceful like existence. And
Mhm.
so and to end on that is like especially with music as well, like the vibrations of music and like how it can make you feel a certain way, like especially playing the guitar on my chest and like how it vibrates and like how a chord is like pleasing. And you play guitar at all?
I don't. I
Okay.
don't play any
Uh,
instruments.
oh,
No.
okay. Well, guitar specifically, like a G chord, like ding, it's like the most probably common rooted note. Um, with each you can play like just two strings, but like each string almost like imagine if a pizza is like five slices. It's like each string is like a piece of the pizza, and like you play the all five together in tune. It's just like a very satisfying feeling. my uncle who's like I'm just going off. My my uncle who's an Elvis tribute artist. He like plays shows as Elvis. He's like 69, sells out shows, incredible. But he always talks about he's like whenever I was feeling down, the guitar would make me feel better. I think it's
Mm.
because specifically like music and chords, it's like literally something in the universe of oh, it's just like a satisfactory experience to feel. So with like music and this worldly existence is like to the tune of like someone's heart being like a tunable thing, like with feeling and vibrations, right? Um, uh,
I like that
it's
you say,
like
you saying, it's like tune your heart to where it's coming from. I think you said to something to that. Where is it
yeah, so
from?
it's like it's like thought vibration, right? It's like before you speak, all hear, meaning it's like what precedes the spoken word, the thought, right? But what's that sets off the thought is the vibration. So in a world of vibrations, um,
Wait, are we getting into string theory here, or
more just like the I don't know. I'll finish with this. The perspective of like you know like one of the best experiences is like when all of our hearts are like tuned together because we're all like sharing this adventure
harmony?
together. I forgot why I'm going off in this, but
No, it's a harmony, and I think
yeah,
to bring it back to kind of some of the original thoughts, like how are you
right,
keeping it light? You keep it light, and that makes sense. If you have a perspective like all of it's on you, then it will feel heavier, right? But if you
yeah,
have a perspective like this is all for God's kingdom, and I'm a child of God, and you
yeah,
have that childlike approach to life, you are going to be lighter, right? You're going to be lighter. You're not going to take yourself so serious, and I've seen you embody that, so that makes sense to me, kind of where that's coming from. So thank you for sharing
yeah.
that.
And then with the lightness, it's like the goal is the destination is the goal, but then when I get the goal, what am I gonna do? Ah, that journey. Ah, remember when we were struggling over there and this was happening and I was eating ramen or whatever, right? So it's like with that awareness, oh wow, like I'm in it. Like I'm in the game. Every
Yes.
day is like the game that I'm gonna reflect on later to be like, oh, I remember that day, I remember when that happened. So yeah.
I love that. And that's what entrepreneurship's about, right? Because you wake up and it's like choose your own adventure every day, for better or for worse.
Yeah.
And some people have opted out of that. And I think, if they're
That's a good
honest
way to
with
put it.
themselves, maybe there's a moment of courage that they have to take, right? And I think a lot of people, they look at entrepreneurs and they're kind of, glorified and seen as maybe like, oh, it's a cool thing. But the level of regular courage that it takes to sometimes put your faith, like even for myself, I'll speak, in God. And I've had times with my wife where I've turned to my wife and I'm like, babe, I don't know how this is gonna play out. And she's literally just like, it always somehow seems to work out for you. So I'm
Yeah.
not even, you know, it's,
Yeah, because it's like even people starting in solar, like even for me, like I was literally broke, and I was literally my first 2 months of solar making no sales. I was losing money. I was spending more every month than I was making. But then my premise was like, okay, well then what happens? Oh, I slap it on a credit card. Oh shit. And then what happens the next month after? I'll slap it on another card, or like, oh, I don't know, I'll move in with my parents, or I'll sleep on a couch. But like well, what's after that? Like, what's the worst? Are you gonna sleep on a friend's couch? Go to your parents? Are you gonna like spontaneously combust? Probably not, right? So it's like, what's like the fallback to the
worst
fallback to like
case scenario. Yeah.
am I going to end up on the streets? Really? Do I have nobody? Maybe, hopefully not. And I did that. I slept on friends' couches even when I got this office. I thought it was expensive. I gave up my apartment and I slept here at the office for I thought it'd be 3 months. It ended up being 6 to 7 months, but
Wow.
saved a bunch of money. That was another whole internal experience. I actually had the bottom level of the office I kind of used as a room, but then eventually we started doing construction in that room, so all of my room became not even a room anymore. I just had like a little desk with like my most important things on it, and that was like my room. And that was a bizarre experience because I was basically like homeless in my own space. Like I didn't have a room for like months.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, can I
You know,
exist with no room?
I so relate to, I think I'm starting to get the picture now. I relate to having my whole family from Ohio,
Mm.
and I'm the only one in my Wilson family that is in California, and it's been that way for quite some time. And there's a whole story there I won't get into, but the benefit of that is I don't have to hold their judgments because they don't see the life that I live. So there's a
Yeah.
benefit to that, right? There can be loneliness to the entrepreneurship. Do I miss my family? Yes. Do I go and visit when I can? Yes. But I think one of the limitations that entrepreneurs and people have is they're too worried about what other people are going to think if I'm sleeping in my office, if I'm I know people who do solar who in the past year and a half, because of all the challenges, have been homeless and sleeping in their car, in their truck, and
Well,
knocking doors and showering at LA Fitness or whatever at some gym, and and I've had those conversations, and it's a tough conversation. If you have any sympathy or empathy at all for someone, and you're like hearing what they're going through, and it's tough because it's like, well, what are my other options, especially with this economy, right? It's like, what are my other options, and it's tough because a lot of people, salespeople kind of get a bad rap as like, oh, we're as bad as politicians or used car salesmen, and people are all worried about getting taken advantage of or scammed. And what if that person makes this, and there's a lot of scarcity mentality in the world, right? That's just everywhere, scarcity and
right.
fear-based mentality. And to be a kind of person that has the courage to make a choice, to say, I'm going to do this no matter what, right? I'm going to do this, if it means I got to sleep in my car and I got to go knock on strangers' doors and get my teeth kicked in every single day. And so I just admire when people have that grit. And if you're able to get away from your family, maybe not a bad strategy.
Yeah,
Right?
for sure. But like you said, yeah, I mean, even for me when I was sleeping here, like I was also showering at the gym. So it's like, the are you gonna settle for the thing you don't want, that life you don't want, or whatever you don't want, or are you just gonna invest more and figure out a way, and then
Yeah.
eventually get lucky, right? Because you were there, because you were there at 6 a.m. investing more, studying, you noticed something, you tripped into somebody, and then works out.
Yeah, it's all about the relationships. And so let's kind of, just as we kind of bring this closer to an end here, I just want to speak to that young leader, maybe somebody who's working as a salesperson, maybe they have ambitions to start their own thing, or branch out or do something from their own of their own. What's advice that you would give to a young salesperson or leader trying to build their business right now in 2026?
I would say probably lock in for 2 years of sales, right? For me, as an mechanical engineer major and a fully licensed financial advisor, to leave that to go knock doors for 2 years. I knew I was overqualified for that position, right? But I knew, like my dad in the military, I had to be in the trenches for my men to respect me. So definitely lock in for 2 years of sales, because you're really good at sales, and learn communication and just that confidence that you can go get it. And then after that, it's just it's a commitment to, like, I don't know how to do this, but I'm just gonna jump in and figure it out. And that means like start clicking random places, turning knobs, breaking stuff, um, going the wrong way here, but eventually stumbling through it, almost like uncovering the map on the video game, right? Like you're just gonna kind of figure, like, I'm not sure where to go, but like I'm just gonna start walking this way. And then that's like how a lot of things get built, because I didn't know how to do a lot of this, and I'm like, I think I'm smart, but I'm probably not smarter than anybody else, right? So it's kind of like I just started a commitment, to, I don't know how to do this, but I'm going to figure it out. And so
Right.
then, yeah, with entrepreneur, then it's like, okay, what's your rooted intention, which is like to bring the most valuable. And for me and for us in Helios, it's we want to provide the service and the experience that we would want if we were you. So like thinking from the customer's point of view, well, hey, I'm the customer. What's the best experience I could have as the customer? The best deal, the best people to work with, and that's where we operate from. So that's gives us the intention to go get the best financiers and everything, because we want to just you know bring the best, and from there, then comes belief and conviction in, like, you should do this because if knowing what I know, if I was you, I would definitely do this. So yeah, so for any young entrepreneurs out there, I think it just takes a commitment to start. I'll even tell one 30-second story with that too. We have the music studio, Paradise Studios, down the hall in the building. I've got the music studio and the solar company in the same building. That was a cool thing we set up. But like, I played guitar my whole life since I was 16. I'm 34 now, right? 18 years played guitar, and we have this drum set in our studio, and we've had jam sessions. Like we actually have one tonight, 7 p.m. Paradise Studios, Santa Monica. But we have bass players and guitar players and the drummer here and there. And I don't play drums or didn't play drums. And eventually, I was just sitting there a few weeks ago, never played my entire life. I was like, yeah, let me just learn real quick. Like I'm gonna learn how to play drums. Sat down in the chair, Same thing as uncovering the map, starting whacking around a little bit. People are playing. I'm like trying to do the whole like rub my head and tap my head. So just like trying to figure it out, but like through stumbling through it, bro, in like a few weeks of a few sessions, I'm like I would say okay, where I could at least hold a beat, but I wasn't a drummer. My 34 years of existence, and all of a sudden, like I was just fed up of not being like we have this weakness in the business. Let me just learn drums real quick, and so
Yeah,
now I
I
can
love
actually do it. Yeah, okay, yeah,
and people follow the leader, right? If you have that mentality of flexibility and wanting to learn new things and being humble enough to stumble and figure it out, then you're going to create that culture because people are going to see that and be like, oh, it's safe for me to do that, right? I can figure this
yeah.
out. I can fail. I can mess up, right? And that's the culture that you're building out there with Helios and Santa Monica. It's a beautiful place, one of my favorite places in California to go. So, if you get a
We'll see you
chance and
next
you're
week.
yeah, in the solar space. Yeah, it's a nice place to go hang out, right? It's fun. It's a drive through traffic. That's my resistance point, right?
I know.
But it's so much fun out there. And so for Helios, kind of back to the company just for a sec. So if you're listening and you're like, yeah, this is cool. Like, I like the vibes. I like, kind of Taylor's approach. I like, what he's building out there. What is, besides just obviously recruit, train, mentor, kind of, bring people up, like what is the long-term vision that you have? Like give me the 5 years. I don't know if you've gone out that far, but just whatever that long-term vision, like what is that for Helios and for you?
Great question. So, I would say similar to the culture I mentioned earlier. My goal was to get to a company of about 50 people, 55 people, at least for this branch in Santa Monica, and for it to be, I'll use the word tribe inspired, which is like everybody gets along. People are going to each other's weddings and like social events and like going to dinner and like let's get a drink after work and like, you know, um, providing great service, making a bunch of money, but just like the lifestyle that this brings and like that, um, like with our people of just that freedom and flexibility, like making a good income, doing something that matters, but like really aligned and in harmony, like you said earlier, just like and just really enjoying the experience. I told this to Mark one time and I forgot it, but he remembered it. He's like, hey, instead of making $500,000, I'd rather make $250,000, but have twice the fun. Now I'd like to make $500,000 as well, or more than that. But the premise of like, hey, let's make a killing, but like let's enjoy this ride because again, when I'm 60, I'm gonna look back at these years. I'm like, oh, those were the years, those were the days. So like, just really that I don't want to say balance, but just awareness of what's important and like make sure I do it all while I'm this age. So yeah, so basically eventually this chapter 55 people or so. And then yeah, maybe other chapters in other states. Just making sure the home base is good first and just ultimately continuing to enjoy growing our service to the world because the water's not going to get any hot in my spot 10 years from now as it is now. So it's like I'm already very wealthy in my life of abundance that I'm living in. So while I continue to grow, just making sure that I'm enjoying that experience because be it 100 people or 1,000 people, it's going to probably be relatively the same on my day to day. So let me just have fun while I serve more people. And
I love that, man.
yeah,
As
so
you
yeah.
were saying that, I literally started hearing Avicii, I think that's how you say it, Avicii.
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
Uh, his song, I think is it Levels, where it's like, my heart lives for younger days. Well, it's like,
I think it's called The Days. It's like, one day you'll leave this world behind. You'll
yeah, that
live a
one.
life you will remember. Yeah, he's one of
That
my biggest inspirations for sure too.
that one, it's like that's kind of what I was getting that vibe from. It's like that's what you're doing it for, is to be able to have those memories and those special experiences. I see you out there doing it every day, brother.
Thank you,
Keep
thank you.
rocking this. Super honored to have you as a friend and to get to work together and build business together. Where
Yes,
can
sir.
people find you, right? What's your socials? Give us the plugs.
I'm unfindable. No, just kidding. It's just Taylor Crouse one on Instagram, and then I think just Taylor Crouse on TikTok and YouTube. We're gonna be working on a more YouTube channel. I just built an Eventbrite Partyful app hybrid using Claude AI recently, and probably make a video on that in the coming week. So that'll be on YouTube. Yeah, and then Taylor Crouse on Spotify for music and stuff too.
Sweet.
New song every 2 weeks. We're doing a push right now, so that's gonna be fun too.
Awesome, brother. Well, hey, thank you so much for being on the show. It was a pleasure as always, and we'll talk soon.
Awesome. Thanks, JCW. Appreciate you, brother.
Later.
Thanks, man.
All right.